joining us today, Sergeant Case. If you would just tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us who you are and where you're from, just before we get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Staff Sergeant Jack Case. 26 years old. I'm from Durant, Oklahoma. I was at the middle school in 2008, so I graduated from the high school there. I'm currently stationed at Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas. I'm a fire academy instructor. Right now, that's kind of my secondary position. I got selected for a special duty. Normally, I'm a firefighter EMT. I've got a wife and 2 kids at home, and happy to be here to share my experience with y'all.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. The first question they wanted me to ask you is, what kind of education was required for you to get started on your path as a firefighter in the Air Force?
So you can take one of 2 paths in the military. You can either go officer and enlisted. If you're looking at the enlisted route, you either need a GED or a high school diploma. So graduating is going to be the big thing there. But even if you don't do that, that GED can get you in the door. If you're looking to go as the officer route, the benefits there are going to be more money and a little bit more management on your part, but you need at least a bachelor's to take that route.
Okay, so if they wanted to go in as an officer, they would go to college first, complete college, and then join. But if they wanted to go in as enlisted, as long as they have a high school diploma, which is probably preferable, or a GED, they'd be able to join the Air Force.
Right, the enlisted route, I went to basic training less than a month after I graduated high school with no further education. With that, the GED, it's not even a preference thing. You just need one or the other. So they don't look down upon you for not having that diploma. The GED is good there. For college, you can or for officer, you can go to college first and attain that bachelor's, but there's also a way to get to the officer corps from enlisted through different programs and things like that too. You also have things within your college that can get you taking that route as well. So.
Okay. And so one of the questions I ask is kind of hard for some people to talk about. It's not for me, and I think we need to talk about it with our students, is salary. We talk a lot to our students about you have to have some sort of post-secondary education really in order to be able to have a salary that's large enough to support yourself, for one, and then especially a family. So if you could kind of talk about the average salary maybe when you first started, as opposed to now, and also the other benefits. You know, money is not the only benefit, maybe health insurance and education and things like that. If you could describe that for us.
Right, and money is all we work anyway, right? In the military, you are paid based off your rank. So obviously, the lower the rank you are, the less money you're going to make. The enlisted route goes from E1 to E9, depending on what branch of service you are. You're called a different rank, but you still have the same pay grade throughout all the branches. As an E1, you're making enough to support yourself. Even as an E3, I think it's enough to support yourself and a family of probably 2 or 3, depending on how you budget. The big benefits of the military is you see your pay stub come into your bank account, but that's not all the money you're getting. You're also getting base allowance for housing and base allowance for subsistence. So your food and your housing is paid for and given to you on top of what you're already making. So that's kind of a secondary income. With your base allowance for housing, you can choose to reside on base or on post, depending on your branch. Now, with that, they're going to take all of your BAH and put it directly toward that house. If you choose to live off base, you get that allotment of a BAH, and then you can kind of budget on where you want to live based off what you're receiving.
Okay, so BAH is basic allowance for housing. So if
Right.
you went in as an E1, like if you were 18, when you were 18, you went in and you lived in a dorm room. So what bills were you responsible for on your own as an adult at 18, as an E1? What did you have to pay for, or what did they give you?
So after basic training, I decided to enlist for 6 years as opposed to 4, meaning when I graduated my technical training school after basic training, I was automatically slotted for an E3 spot. Living in the dorms, you don't get that BAH because you're housed somewhere. The bills I was responsible for was a phone bill and a vehicle payment and insurance.
So that smaller salary that sometimes people look at for the military when you first go in, really all of that is your disposable income for whatever you wanted to do.
Absolutely. And a lot of times in the dorms, you're eating at a chow hall or a DFAC, which has hired chefs to prepare your food, which you don't have to pay for either. You just go in there and then you scan your ID card and then you're eating.
That sounds like a good benefit for me. I would probably enjoy that.
Definitely.
One of the things they wanted us to talk to you, or you to talk to these 8th grade students about, is what does a typical work day or a work week look like for your career? And I know you've kind of changed paths, not you're in the same career field, but you're doing a different job. So you can just describe your job when you very first came in, and then maybe what you're doing now.
Right. So right from the start, there is thousands of different career fields across all the branches, and they are each going to have their own rules and regulations regarding your work schedule. You have anything from working like a finance office where you're going to be that 9 to 5 type of job, 40-hour week type of thing. Me personally, as a firefighter, when I'm not doing this special duty, I work 48 hours on, live at the fire department, I eat there, I have my own residence there, and we respond to emergencies. And then I have 48 hours off where I reside at home. Here right now, while I'm teaching a tech school to train students to become firefighters, I'm kind of in that 40-hour a week thing, but we amp it up a little bit here. So I work from 06 to 3 in the afternoon every day. It kind of just depends. If you work on like a flight line or an airfield, you could really see your hours go up a whole lot more based on the mission of that base that they're flying. So you have a wide range of what you can do, and it's really based off what your career field job is.
So your day might look different even for you in your career field, depending on what the mission is of where you're stationed.
Right. And the way it works is you're on duty 24/7 because that's how we get paid. We don't only get paid while we're on the clock, you're paid around the clock. So you can be called in a modus notice. We have recalls all the time, especially in my career field. Let's say we have a downed aircraft where we have to bring in everybody in the fire department to come in or whatnot. Or maybe you just get called in to do different training based off what your job wants you to do.
Okay. And talk to me about what you paid for your training. I know you said you're a firefighter and an EMT. Tell me about your certifications and what you paid to get certified, because I know Fire Academy is not cheap. I know some people who have gone as civilians and it's not cheap. Talk to me about what it cost you to be able to get that training.
Right. All it's cost me is my time and my freedom, if you will. And that's something you sign up for. It has cost me zero money out of my pocket to acquire the certifications that I have. And to keep it short, I've got airport firefighter, I've got firefighter 1, I've got firefighter 2, I've got driver operator aerial, driver operator pumper. I've also got mobile water supply. I've got airport rescue. I've got fire inspector 1 through 2. I've got fire officer 1 through 2, fire instructor 1 through 2. I have hazmat tech. I have rescue technician. My EMT was paid for. And I also have other management certifications that are going to cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the real world that I didn't pay anything for and I was sent to.
And you also recently acquired your associate's degree, right? And are working toward a bachelor's degree also?
For free. So we get tuition assistance. You get $4,500 a year to go to school for free. And that's going to be up to your supervisor. As long as you were doing what you're supposed to do on your job and you're caught up with everything, they can say, yes, you can go to school or not. Right now, I hold 2 associate's degree. I have an associate's in fire science, and I have an associate's in instructor of military technology that I earned while I was here. And for free right now, I'm halfway through a bachelor's program as well. So I'll have 3 degrees within the next 2 years.
So should you decide to leave the military, you would absolutely be marketable on the outside. And it sounds to me like maybe at least $100,000 worth of education, I would say at least, that you've been granted.
Not more. If not more, that's not counting everything the Air Force military-wise is paid for. A lot of my certifications come for specifically through the fire service, but I also have leadership and management classes that I was allowed to go to, if you will, just for holding the rank that I have.
That sounds like a pretty good trade-off to be 26 and have all those certifications and not have all the student debt that goes with that.
Right. And then the marketability is really unbelievable. As long as you network and you know people, and I know civilians in the world that were like, hey, if you decide to get out, we have a job lined up for you right away, based off the certifications and the experience that I've gotten.
So another thing that they wanted us to talk about are soft skills. And so it seems as though, if I can do the kids nowadays things, it seems as though kids nowadays maybe don't have the communication skills for whatever reason. We do a lot of things electronically, but sometimes they're not as skilled in what we call soft skills. And that would be like showing up to work on time and communicating. And that's something that that employers have expressed to us that we need to make sure that students know, because we are preparing them for the workplace. So talk to me about that, some skills that are not necessarily technical training for your job, but skills that you have to have in order to just get along with your students that you have now and your own supervisors and other people that you come in contact with.
Right. So first and foremost, and this I believe is for all branches, no matter what your job is in the military, is professionalism. Things like showing up to work on time, doing what you're supposed to do in a timely manner, having the manners to understand who you're talking to and addressing them as they should be. Communication is really the big thing, though. You have to be able to talk and understand how your words are being construed as well, because a lot of times what you say is not what the person you're talking to is interpreting. So well-mannered, professional, to be able to communicate.
Okay, and what about like showing up to work on time or just not showing up? If you, let's say you had a really great weekend and you just decided you were too tired to go to work on Monday, how would that work out for you?
Right. So in the civilian sector, let's say you had an awesome weekend. You're like, you know what? I'm just not going to go to work tomorrow. The biggest repercussion you might get is being fired and having to look for another job. But the military has invested all of this time and all of this money into you. So if you decide to do that here, you're going to face not only losing your job, going to prison, and then having a discharge that is 0% marketable in the civilian world, where there's a chance you might not be able to get hired for anything worth your time ever again. So back to really it's professionalism, doing what you're supposed to do and having the integrity to do what you have to, because if you don't, there are major repercussions for it.
Right, which sounds kind of scary, but all you really have to do is what you're being asked to do, right? Whatever you're being paid to do and tasked to do, that would take care of it.
Doing the right thing. And the Air Force and all branches have what we call the core values. The Air Force is our integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. If you remember to have integrity with everything you do, you really can't go wrong.
That would be an awesome skill to develop for students. And then also, is there anything you wish you had done differently with your education? Like, think about your time from 8th grade until you graduated. Is there anything you would do different to prepare yourself for? I know you did some training, physical training and things before you left for the military, but is there anything else you might have done to prepare yourself for your career?
For my career, so when I went to the recruiter to join, I had one thing in mind, and that was to be some sort of special forces. So all of my time was allocated to physical training, running, and having the physical and muscular endurance to do the job. But what happened was I did end up getting one of those jobs, and I was offered firefighter out of the blue. I was like, you know what? That sounds good. It's marketable on the outside. It's not a desk job. I can get out. It's going to be something that's going to be fun to do. And so I went and took it. So you honestly, there's sometimes you never know what you're going to get. When you go to the recruiter, if you go in with an idea in mind, that's going to help you out a lot. But sometimes the needs of the service are going to come before yourself. Really, what it boils down to, if you can start that integrity and that professionalism from a young age, even as young as an 8th grader, showing up to school on time, doing your homework in a timely manner, making sure you get done what you have to do and doing it to the best of your ability, that's going to prepare you for the military because they accept nothing less than your best.
So whatever job that you end up with, they're going to train you for that, but it's those soft skills that
They will
punctuate.
train you for. If I would have known further in advance that I was going to be a firefighter, I had outlets like maybe volunteering for a volunteer fire department or looking at classes, doing my own research and going into that manner. But I had zero fire experience, no medical experience, and I didn't really know how fire worked until I got in, until I came to where I'm teaching right now to learn my job. And then I developed all those skills while I was here. They're going to prepare you for whatever they have to do. They're going to get you in that spot or you wouldn't be in that job discussion anyway. The only thing that I would recommend you do is make sure that you take care of your school. You make sure you graduate or if at least get a GED.
Okay. And then can you think of anything else you would tell an 8th grader? Because it probably seems like a long time ago to you. It doesn't seem like a long time ago to me that you were in 8th grade and the whole world was in front of you. And it seemed like forever until you got to an adult standpoint. Is there anything else you can tell if you could sit down and have a conversation, have lunch with these students? What might you tell them just about their future in general and getting ready to be an adult?
Right. So I remember being a teenager and I thought, I can't wait to be an adult. Time is moving so slow. I wish I could just hurry up. I'm ready to graduate. I'm ready to move on with bigger things. And looking back at it now, it felt like it was yesterday. It went by in the blink of an eye almost. You don't want to take anything for granted with your life and make sure you set yourself up for what you want to do long term because you don't want to look back someday and think, I wish I would have done anything different. Because it's one of the worst feelings in the world. There's only one thing I regret. And I regret quitting football my senior year, and it haunts me to this day. And it seems kind of minute, but regrets are really going to drag you down moving forward. So if you develop a plan early and look at ways how you can get to that plan successfully, and then look at ways that could keep you or hinder you from getting there, and avoid that area and keep your nose to the ground, it'll get here before you know it. It goes by in the blink of an eye.
So just kind of think about what they want to do and do some goal setting, and then just take those step after step to get to that goal.
Have a plan. I don't mean set a goal that's unrealistic or something that's way out in advance. If you start with little goals, maybe a post-it note, something like wake up in the morning and make my bed, because that's going to set my day forward, because I did one thing right and now I can do more and more things right. And not like a checklist, but if you have short-term goals that you can accomplish and give yourself that self-credibility and that feeling that you've accomplished something, it's going to build. And honestly, my mind changes every day on what I want to do. You know, maybe I want to be an FBI agent, maybe I want to be a game warden, maybe I want to be a fire chief, I don't know. But I look at the commonalities with everything I want to do and realize what is my success way for either of those paths and any of them. And if I stick to those, I know I will at least be set up in the long run for what I want to do.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, Sergeant Case. I appreciate you talking to the students. And if they had any questions maybe that they wanted to ask you, would you mind if they reached out to me and gave those questions? Maybe I could email them to you, or maybe they could even email you.
Absolutely. I'd be more than willing to.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. And you had one more thing to say to the students?
I got one more thing, and I'm sure most people have heard that there's a chance you will deploy in the military and you're going to be subjected to things that maybe you never wanted to see before, things that you didn't want to experience. I've deployed twice. I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I've seen deployments at their worst and deployments where they almost feel like a vacation. My first deployment happened when I was 19 years old, and I was deployed to a bear base in Iraq, where I was sleeping outside. I wasn't showering. I was eating MREs, and my base was getting attacked every day, where I could hear bombs going off. I'd seen IEDs blow up. I'd been outside the wire on convoys and had seen the way that those natives lived. And I've seen people attack at their worst from indirect fire and things like that. What gets you through things like that, you got to know that before you join the military, because you will be subject to that, because that's what you signed the line for to join, is to go fight and defend for your country and to lay your life down if it comes to it. So that's something you really want to know before you go into it, because thinking about it without knowing anything, it's like all of a sudden you're shocked. You may see things if you decide to take the route that you wish you never would have. What the military does for you is it establishes lifelong friends, people you can talk to, where you have outlets, people that have experienced the same thing, and then you get through that stuff together. So you may experience things or see things that you never wished you would have, but you have people right there with you. On the flip side of that, my last deployment was to Dubai as a fire inspector. So I got to go experience Dubai every other day if I wanted to. They had concerts on the base of my deployments, and I was eating steak and lobster twice a week. So there's a wide range of things you can experience and see. Really make up your mind if it's something you want to do, because once you sign that line for that 3, 4, 6-year contract, there's no way out of it unless you finish it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that last part about deployment, because it is real world. It's not all just fun and games and all the benefits. You are there to do a job, which would be to serve your country.
Right. Everything that we've talked about is kind of icing on the cake, but you sign to give your life for your country if that's something that's asked of you, and that's something you want to know and something you want to embody before you do it.
Well, I appreciate that on a personal level, and also as an American citizen, I appreciate your service. All right. Thank you,
you.
Sergeant.